Hello everyone, this is Attack the Backlog, the podcast where I, Marc, tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. This is episode 23, Batman the Telltale Series. Now, before I start talking about the game, I should preface this entire episode with the fact that I am not the biggest Batman fan. I've seen all the movies and I've read a few comic/graphic novels, but overall I'm not the biggest fan of Batman, the character in particular. I think Batman is a weak character who is made much more interesting thanks to his cast of villains, who are probably the greatest collection of villains among comics. But Batman himself and Bruce Wayne are two characters I don't love, but I have loved pieces of media portraying him and his story, from the Nolan trilogy to Arkham Asylum and even Arkham City and Origins. I haven't played Arkham Knight, but I adore Arkham Asylum, and I thought Arkham City was a good follow-up. I still think Arkham Asylum is the much tighter, better experience, and it's one of my favorite games from that generation. So I don't hate Batman, but I don't love Batman, and I don't have an enormous amount of knowledge about Batman. So the storyline that the Telltale Series game followed and the direction that some of the characters go in, I don't know if these storylines or these arcs have been attempted before. So just keep that in mind, that for some of these things and the revelations that come out while playing the game are new to me and are things that I never thought were ever touched upon in the comic. Like, I'm not sure if these things are like very different than the way they've ever been portrayed in the comics or what have you. So don't hate me because I am uneducated about Batman. Anywho, this is a Telltale game, and it is exactly what you think it is. A point-and-click adventure with a lot of pushing the analog stick in this direction or that direction and pressing buttons when they pop up on screen. And of course you have all the dialogue in which you respond and have a limited amount of time to say one of three things or nothing at all. And it takes place over 5 episodes, which are very short. I can't remember how long it took me to play through all the other Telltale games I've played. Prior to this, I've played through The Walking Dead Season 1 and 2, and the New Day, or whatever the in-between Season 1 and 2 was, which was like 3 episodes, and The Wolf Among Us. I don't think I've played anything other than those, not counting their earlier stuff like Sam and Max and Wallace and Gromit and all that. So it's been a while since I've played a Telltale game, but I remember those earlier games being much longer and more around 3 hours per episode, or 2.5 to 3 hours per episode. But with Batman the Telltale Series, I finished the game, the entirety of it, all 5 episodes, in just over 7.5 hours. I think my time ended up being around 7 hours and 35 minutes. And I think the first episode was longest at around 2 hours or so, and then everything else after that, it went by really fast. I was surprised by how fast the game was moving along. And that's somewhat of a problem because there are parts of the story that don't feel fully fleshed out, though at the same time I'm not sure if a few extra hours would fix that, because there are a lot of plot points in the story that leave me with way more questions than I wanted when all was said and done. And that's one of the problems with the game. The story has some interesting beats and different directions for characters who are typically good, as far as I know, again, but it just doesn't all come together in the end to be completely sensical. And that was a bit frustrating, though there are some great moments in the game as well. I think everything involving Selina Kyle / Catwoman is fantastic. I love the relationship you build with her on both a personal and professional level, and I think Laura Bailey does a fantastic job voicing Selina Kyle, and Troy Baker plays Bruce Wayne / Batman. And I think he does a much better job in the Bruce Wayne role than the Batman role. The Batman role and voice felt very empty, void of emotion when he should be emotional at times. It didn't make any significant impact on me. But I really loved all of their interactions together. I thought the stuff with Alfred was good. But there are things about the story, and of course this will be spoilery if you don't already realize that. There are things about the story that leave me wondering how this could possibly be the case. And one of the biggest things that had me questioning things from the very beginning was the fact that Bruce Wayne's father and his mother were both corrupt. And they had dealings with the Falcone family and I don't know, the corrupt mayor or whatever. Mayor Hill, I think, was his name. And what I find so weird about this is not that his parents were corrupt. I think that is an interesting take on his parents and not having them be these perfect beings who were infallible. I like that. But what I don't like is that somehow Bruce Wayne, Batman, the world's greatest detective, didn't know jack shit about this. At no point did he come across any records or files or whatnot that led him to realize this. Alfred knew this. So many other people knew this. How did he manage to miss this? Was it just the family blinders keeping him from realizing or accepting the truth of this all? So that bugged me. And then I found all of the Oswald Cobblepot Penguin stuff to be... I don't know, it just, that didn't work for me. And then the Vicky Vale reveal, which was surprising. That was probably the most surprising part of the game, because while this big bad Lady Arkham was the same build as Vicky Vale, I just never thought she could be evil, in large part because I don't remember any other time reading or watching or playing through a Batman story where she was evil. I never knew that she could be evil, and what's to say she couldn't? Exactly, right? That's fine. I like that. I thought that twist was good, but the way they handled it after the twist and the final fight with her, it didn't feel earned. And when you learn about her past and her upbringing with her foster parents, adopted parents, I'm not sure, and what they did to her, that felt weird. Again, it didn't feel earned. And maybe if I had more time with it just felt like you were trying to figure out her motivation all this time, and then there's this convenient discovery and you find out that all this bad shit happened to her, and maybe you can sympathize with her now and blah blah blah. And it's like I like this discovery conceptually, but I think they could have handled it better. I did like the stuff with Harvey Dent up until the point he turned completely psychotic and became the mayor, and then implemented this private security force that went around quieting the news and destroying buildings in an attempt to destroy the children of Arkham, who were the underlings of Lady Arkham, Vicky Vale, or she was actually Vicky Arkham, or whatever, Victoria Arkham, I don't know. And I found how off the rails he got, and how he got away with so much of it, and the escalation of it to be a bit much in such a short period of time. And with Lady Arkham and the Children of Arkham and Penguin, I didn't understand. I to an extent understood the Penguin's motivation, because his family was hurt by the Waynes, so it was all very personal to him, and his desire to hurt Bruce Wayne in particular and take stuff away from him. I got that. But with Lady Arkham and the Children of Arkham, I didn't get their motivation against the Waynes and just against this. Like, were they trying to hurt the rich and give back to the poor. I mean, they weren't trying to give anything to the poor, so I don't understand what they wanted other than anarchy. Were they just anarchists who just wanted to watch the world burn? You do meet the Joker at some point when you are sent to Arkham Asylum, which was cool, I guess. And they tease that he'll be the big bad of the second season, the enemy within, which I'll play at some point. But overall, I was disappointed with the game, though, because it was so short, that disappointment doesn't feel as big as maybe it is. It's weird. I know I'm disappointed. I know overall I wish it was much more than what it ended up being. But at the same time, it didn't waste my time, so I'm not as upset about it, if that makes sense. And like I said, I really enjoyed the stuff with Catwoman, Selena Kyle. I thought all of that stuff was fantastic. I enjoyed Alfred. I enjoyed Batman, or I enjoyed Bruce Wayne for the most part. The decisions you made, the big decisions you made throughout the game, so some of them being, are you going to try and solve this as Batman or Bruce Wayne, felt somewhat insignificant in the end. And there are moments in the game that I tried doing something one of two ways and realized that regardless of what I did, it ended up with the same outcome. That is frustrating, though. That is something I think Telltale games have always had a problem with, where you do one thing and you think, oh, this is how it's going to turn out, and it doesn't, and then you try the opposite, and it ends up giving you the same outcome, and it takes away from the mystique of the choices and all that jazz. So yeah, this is a bit of a weird one in that I'm not really high on the game, but at the same time, I'm not down on the game. I may sound more down on the game than I am. It's very weird. I don't know how else to put it. I like that it was shorter. It was easy to get through. There are some really cool things in it, and it tries some different things with characters, which I really appreciate, and it ran well overall, though there are audio issues with the game where audio would just drop out entirely, and it would be very quiet and be very awkward. Also, an especially weird thing happened a few times where one or two characters would have their neck twisted in such a way that they should be dead. They had broken neck syndrome, and it was very creepy. I remember one case where Bruce Wayne was talking to, I think, Commissioner Gordon, and his neck was twisted in a way that was quite disturbing. But overall, it ran pretty well. I'm still not a fan of the detective bits in the game where you go to crime scenes and you are investigating these different areas of a space, and then you have to link certain parts together, like an explosion or bits of debris with a broken door or something that shows you, oh, this person was standing here and they got blown here. This door was blown out by this thing, or there was a gun here and it was shot and the projectile traveled through this thing and whatnot. And there are times when you are quote unquote investigating on your big bad computer in your bat cave, and all that amounts to is you clicking every single thing until you've clicked everything, and then there will be a short cutscene or whatever, or some dialogue that you may interact with that tells you this or that about the story and what you need to do next, and it doesn't feel as interactive as it might want you to think. There are also times when you are planning out an attack, so you'll see an area and there are 3-4 enemies in the area, and you have to decide how you're going to take out all these enemies before you initiate the quick time event. So you'll see someone who's next to a table and a chair. Will you take the chair and smash it over their back, or would you grab their head and smash it through the table? And then there's somebody that's maybe next to a nice piece of art. You pick up the art, you throw it at the face, and stuff like that. Those are kind of neat, but not all that special. So yeah, it's a Telltale game, and it's fine. It's short, which is nice, and If you care about achievements or trophies, you don't have to do anything special. You just play through the game. So you don't have to worry about getting multiple choices or replaying sections and doing things differently. Just play the game as you would normally, regardless of trophies or achievements. And when all is said and done, you'll have completed the game. You'll have your platinum trophy or your 1,000 achievement points, which is lovely. Anyway, that will do it for this here episode of Attack the Backlog. Once again, I am your host, Marc. Y'all can find me on Twitter and pretty much everywhere at PXSausage. The site is, of course, pixelatedsausage.com, where you can find this podcast and the Pixelated Sausage podcast, which are both available on podcast services across the globe, like Stitcher Radio, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you'd like to check out the video version of this here show or the Pixelated Sausage podcast, you can go over to youtube.com/pixelatedsausage and watch them there. If you'd like to check out the art I make, you can go over to pxsart.com. If you see something you like, click the link and it'll take you to where you can purchase a print of the piece you fancy. And if you fancy the site in general and anything that we do, please go over to patreon.com/pxs and support us that way. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.
Acting Commissioner James Gordon delivered a rousing speech that turned into a shocking assassination attempt on his life. Batman made short work of the assassin.
Oh boy, it's gonna be tough to top that.
But I'll give it a shot.